everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited, Sheri, to have you here with us today. Sheri, you have been a dietitian and a weight loss coach for 25 years. That's a lot of history in this arena. And I'm so grateful that you are here joining us today to share your wisdom and experience with us. Just to begin with, could you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be in this world of plant-based and health nutrition?
Sure. Thanks, Sonia. That was a beautiful introduction. Well, I've been a dietitian for 25 years, but I've only been a whole food, plant-based, low-fat, healthy vegan for 15 years. So I think what drew me here is I saw all the results that I was getting from my clients who had chronic diseases over the years. And this was the diet that I prescribed for people who had diabetes, heart disease, or cancer. And as I did more research and more study, I realized this was the kind of way to eat to prevent those kinds of diseases. So I became very interested in only working with people who want to receive these kinds of results, eating a whole food, plant-based, low-fat diet. Personally, I had super high cholesterol because I was a vegetarian for years and ate a lot of cheese and eggs. So when the doctor said that I needed to take a statin, that scared me enough into dropping the cheese and the eggs and searching for a way to eat that I could reduce my cholesterol so that I wouldn't have to take any kind of medication. And it was amazing how fast, within 30 days, that cholesterol dropped, and that eating a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet is the key to, which I believe, to longevity.
And can you share a little bit about a story that was it for you, that really inspired you?
That's a really easy one for me to talk about. My own mother came down with uterine cancer at 83 years old. And I was living in Los Angeles, and so I was flying back and forth to care for her. And so at the doctor's recommendation, she had her uterus removed. And so shortly after that, of course, they wanted to put her on chemo and radiation. And I just read the book, The Truth About Cancer by Ty Bollinger, and it was amazing. I didn't know my mother had cancer, but I was just reading that book and studying it while I was flying back and forth. So I had firsthand knowledge about how we could cure her body by eating a whole food, plant-based diet. And so with her willingness, and she really didn't have a healthy diet over the years, she changed very quickly because she realized that that was her alternative to continuing to fight this disease. The cancer, they said, was still inside her, even though her uterus was removed, and they wanted to give her chemo and radiation. And I think it's really hard for that generation and that age group to say no to chemo or radiation. They believe their doctors are God and that's what they're going to follow. But with her confidence and my background as a dietitian and my studying in plant-based, whole food, plant-based dieting, she decided to turn herself over, and we did a whole food, plant-based diet for about 3 months. And so she's healed now. She's cancer-free, and she eats a whole food, plant-based diet, never had any chemo or any radiation. And so I think that's the key for her life, is that she did not choose to do that, because I really believe it's the chemo and radiation that ends up killing all the good cells, just like all the bad cells. So yeah, I'm blessed to share that story. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. You know, there's so many of these kinds of stories of people boomeranging back from chronic illness that traditionally kills simply by cutting out the meat, the dairy, and all the byproducts. So the cheese and the eggs. And so for me, I am my own guinea pig. You know, my experience has been that when I eat eggs, well, I haven't eaten eggs for years, but if I eat dairy, I feel instantly, there's not even a time lag. It's not like, you know what, tomorrow you're going to feel this. I eat yogurt in the morning, and by that afternoon, my body feels swollen, and the inflammation is instant. But I feel as though there is a part of our nature that ignores it because we want to eat those things, right? So the pleasure is so great that we're like, ooh, you know, I'm just going to eat this because it's so good. And no, I'm not swollen because of that. I'm sure it's the time of the month or hormones or blah, blah, blah. we keep looking for those excuses to continue doing it. But, I always wonder, because for me, there was that little voice in the back going, no, this is because of the ice cream. This is because of so I wonder how many of your clients, when they come to you from this meat eating lifestyle, how many of them have had this inkling for a long time that their exhaustion or their illness or the mental fog is actually the diet? When you speak to them, how many do you find actually there's an inkling in the back there that always knew?
Every one of them, absolutely. I think they finally turn themselves over, especially as women. We've done every diet out there. We're always about losing weight and not as focusing on improving our health. So when people come to me, mostly women that come to me have really surrendered, and that's the word. They are aware of their bodies. They're aware that they don't feel well. They need something. They're almost desperate for the change. And that's the kind of client that I really enjoy working with, because they're ready to really commit to not a diet, but to a whole food lifestyle, and they've made those connections. They after they work with me for just 30 days, they say, I wish I had done this years ago. As you know, right? You feel so much better. And I also wanted to say that when you talked about the dairy and how it affects you, I feel the same way now when I eat oil. When I go out to dinner and it's hard to manage the oil at a restaurant or over at other friends' house to eat, for example, I feel the oil right away too, and that sluggish feeling. And I realize that oil is something that we really don't need in our life.
That's it. I'd love to talk more about the oil side, because obviously there are good oils and there are bad oils. So could you talk a little bit about good and bad oils?
I love that you said that. In my book, in my research, they're all pretty much bad oils. Most of the oils, first of all, we can say they've been sitting on a shelf, usually in some kind of plastic bottle for God knows how long. So we don't even know where they're coming from. And when you come from a whole food plant-based diet, we recommend that you eat the whole plant. So instead of the walnut oil or the olive oils, I recommend that you eat the whole plant, the olive, the avocado, the walnut, the whole coconut. The oil is just a processed version, and there's no fiber in the oil. So I'm all about the fiber. That's what keeps you full, and that's what keeps the digestive tract moving, and keeping the colon and the gut clean is eating a lot of fiber. So it's removed in the oils. And so I don't believe there's really a good oil out there. That seems a little dramatic.
No, I love it, because when as you're talking, I'm like, well, I don't actually eat oils, but when I'm talking about oils, I'm meaning, what about the oil/fat in all the nuts that I'm eating? Because I eat a whole lot of nuts. I pretty much eat nuts all day. I graze. I have, pecan nuts, almonds, pistachios all day long. And that's and avocado. And I think that's the richest fat source that I get. So when there's a distinction between oils that you're talking about, that means comes in a bottle to make a salad dressing that you might think is okay, but, unless you've been there squashing your own olives in the south of France, getting your little oil, it's probably not right, because it has to sit in the bottle. Is
Right.
Is that
Exactly.
right?
Exactly, Sonia. Yeah. And look at your skin. Look how it glows. That's from eating all those nuts, because not only are you getting the healthy essential fatty acids that you need for your skin and for your brain and for the rest of your cells to manufacture and grow, it's also, full of fiber and other vitamins and nutrients. And so you're eating a whole plant along with getting the essential fatty acids that you need. And it's the fiber that keeps you full. The nuts are good for you. I think for weight loss, I have to say you have to be careful how much fat, even those healthy fats, because they're delicious. But for weight loss, sometimes you have to monitor them quite slightly.
Let me go back a bit. The difference between a person who is on a whole food diet and a vegan, right? Because for many, many years, I can confess to being a very unhealthy vegan. I ate a lot of bread, a lot of carbs. You know, my diet was very carb heavy and processed carbs. So, you know, I would sit and munch on cereal. I would eat so much sugar in the form of candy that, to be honest with you, I was probably the unhealthiest vegan. So you're not necessarily healthy because you're vegan. However, when you switch your brain and you're no longer vegan, but you move towards health and you go, you know what, my life is going to be nourished by plant-based whole foods. So could you speak a little bit about that difference for people to really understand?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Sonia, because I'm seeing more and more unhealthy vegans coming to my practice now. They have just given up meat basically, and they haven't done any other than nutrition that goes surrounding it besides just giving up meat. And so you're right. It's eating the processed foods. And I like to use the word adulterated foods, the foods that were natural and whole that are processed, like the white flour and the white sugar, is so different than eating the whole oats, the fruits that have the natural. And again, it's coming back to the whole fiber. So a whole food plant-based diet is eating really basically all of those plant foods that are whole from the earth that have been unprocessed. And there's there's a variety of those foods, as you know. But yeah, anything that has a label or a box, I recommend that you stay away from, because the chances are it's been processed and it's not as healthy, and you're not getting all the nutrients, the vitamins and the minerals. It's the micronutrients that I'm interested in, as opposed to the carbs and the protein and the fat. How many vitamins and minerals are you getting? And you get those in the plants, in the vegetables, the fruits and vegetables, the whole grains and the legumes, the mushrooms, the nuts, the seeds. Those kinds of foods are the healthiest foods to choose from.
Definitely. When people shift for the first time and they say, you know what, it sounds so great. And everybody I speak to that is on this plant-based trip, they look so good. They look so energized. They talk about how much energy they have. But I can't imagine giving up my meat. What do you say to them?
That's a good point. I say I like to drive really fast, but I don't, because I'll get a ticket. You can do what you need to do. And once you let go of the meat and you find your taste buds just change and you really enjoy legumes and beans, those kinds of foods in place of the meat.
What about the protein? When people go, but where am I going to get my protein?
That's a good question. Everybody says that, don't they? Where am I going to get my protein? Plants have plenty of protein. They just have more. They have protein plus fiber, plus vitamins, magnesium, potassium, all the micronutrients. So you have a choice. You don't need animal protein to get your protein. And when you think about it, animal protein has just protein and saturated fat, while beans, for example, or broccoli, every plant, even a strawberry, has 2 grams of protein. Every plant has protein. That's what makes it grow. So when you want a choice, if you're looking for protein, you don't have to eat meat to get protein. So you get it in all the plant-based sources. Plus you're getting low fat, you're getting vitamins and minerals and fiber. And so it's overall so much better for your health.
I'm definitely converted. So it's, I need to ask questions that I feel that, you know, the audience watching will be asking. But for me, I know that my human body, my personal human body, understands the language of plant-based. It connects, it gives me all the fuel and all the brain function that is needed. And when you watch all the, you know, research is a really big thing out there right now on this subject. And there is so much that tells us that this is the way to live a long and full and happy life, right? So we don't want to be living longer, but basically dying longer. We want to be living longer and living to our fullest, greatest potential, not on medication. It feels as though the cause of most illness is the red meat, is the poultry, the chicken, the eggs, where it's shared to us that that is the healthiest, like eat the egg yolk, it's so good. But why is it not shared that these are the things that cause these great illnesses mainstream? What is your view on that, Sheri?
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, Sonia, about the pleasure. And there's a book out there by Carl Lyle called The Pleasure Trap. Those foods taste good. I mean, they're addictive too. Once you eat those adulterated foods, when they're taken and made into white flour and sugar and oil, they make you want to eat more. You lose control. Physiologically, there's a craving. I mean, some of the studies say that those foods are like being on heroin or crack. And to let go of your dairy and your meat takes some time, just like giving up alcohol and cigarettes. It's not easy in the beginning, but it's well worth it in the end. And like we were talking earlier about that foggy-headed feeling, that lack of energy, all those things you've been living with. And as we get older, the aches and the pains, all the inflammation starts to show up. So either you're going to come to a point where you know you need a health change. And plus you're carrying around, you know, nowadays, most people are 50 to 100 pounds overweight, sadly to say. In the United States has an obesity epidemic, and that's all because of those foods that we've been just used to eating. The standard American diet is very unhealthy. And so we're unwinding that now. And we're coming to, I think 2020 is the year of the plant-based. And we're starting to see that not only do these foods taste good, once you let go of the addiction, your palate actually changes. I don't know. I hear that all the time, and I did too.
Yeah. I was going to mention before I got sidetracked, which I do often, but the sugar part. So for me, I had to choose. When I was shifting into a plant-based diet, I was already addicted to sugar, but I started to crave sugar even more. It was like I needed that fix because my body wasn't used to converting this natural energy quick enough. I was so conditioned to the quick carbs, the quick energy. So that transition made me crave more. The only thing that worked for me was that every single time I wanted sugar, I had nuts. And I just ate the nuts. And that's how I live. I live with nuts because if I don't have the amount of nuts I eat, I will go for sugar. You know, I need that. And I love them, and I actually don't restrict them. And I know people say, oh, but it's a weight loss thing. And I'm like, you know what? I just eat as many nuts as I like. I graze all day, and I love them. I'm not the kind of person who likes to feel restricted in any way. So moving to a plant-based diet was amazing for me because, you know, you can have as much salad, celery, juicy avocados as you like. And for me, it doesn't change my weight at all. What changes my weight very quickly, and I swell and I put on weight really quickly, is if I eat dairy and if I eat carbohydrates in the form of like crackers, breads, cereals, anything like that. I literally just overnight put on 10 pounds. It's very quick. And that is what happens to my physiology. And I know that different people are different, but I feel that, you know, I have a lot of yogis around me, and everybody who has cut down on those things says the same thing. You know, I feel a lot clearer. I have more energy. My yoga practice feels like I'm able to do things with tonality in my body. And there's a change and a shift that happens because food is our medicine. And if you're not if you're not medicating with nutrients, you're poisoning.
That's right. So it's like surrender and surrender to some of that sugar addiction that you felt was difficult in the beginning. I think it takes about 4 weeks, 1 month, which isn't that much time when you think in the whole scheme of things. But it's something that now you've learned you don't want to go back to it. You learn that you feel so much better. The healthy feeling. Yeah. The healthy feeling is better. And you're right. Anything, again, that comes in a package that is processed, breads, crackers, cookies, even with the label vegan on them, is not super healthy for you. Those are adulterated foods. Those are foods, or they've taken the whole food plant, they've processed it and boxed it and call it vegan or call it low fat or whatever you want to call it, but it's not the fruit. It's not the whole nut. It's not the avocado. It's not the legume, the mushrooms, the seeds. I mean, the variety is actually more than a standard American diet, because food is energy. And when you look down at your plate and you see a piece of meat just plopped on your plate and with a few things wrapped around it, that's the standard American diet. When you switch over to plant-based diet, you're overwhelmed with all the choices and all the variety and all the beautiful colors that you have to choose from. And when you look down at your plate and you realize food is energy, why would you want to eat something dead that's on your plate? Well, you can eat something that's alive. It's going to feed your body and your soul. There's a gratefulness. There's a lifting of seeing that all these beautiful plants that has been given to us are really meant for us to eat in order to keep us healthy.
It's so true. It's so true. And on a spiritual level, when you start to literally just melt all the toxins, reduce all the inflammation, allow your system to reset, because it will. We are miracles. It will reset itself and it will find its balance again. But when that actually starts to happen, it's addictive. You don't want to ever go back. It took me about 3 weeks to get over sugar. It was not easy because I was truly addicted. I mean, people talk about going to the AA, and I was like, I need to go to the SA. I was like, I was totally sugar addicted. And it took me 3 weeks to get over the sugar. But now for me, if you said, do you want candy? I actually almost feel like a little bit repulsed by it. So people can go from being addicted to something, you get this moment of grace and you think, no, I cannot carry on living like this anymore. And then they do this total 360 turnaround, and then they become worse than anybody else. It's like if you ever spoke to a smoker who quit, and they're the worst. They can't smell the smoke. They can't be around the smoke. And that's me with sugar. I don't like it. I don't want to see it. It's so unhealthy. That's me now. And I am so grateful for that moment of grace. I'm so grateful that, I was able to do that. And as I said, for me, I had to have the nuts. And, they didn't affect my weight at all. I know that often, as a dietitian and somebody who's a weight loss coach, you do tell people to be careful with those things. But if somebody's trying to get off of sugar, that is something that I highly recommend, is go for the satiation of this medley of nuts you can have.
You know what? I think everybody's different. If that's what works for you, and probably works for a lot of other people, snacking on nuts, that you've got to take it on an individual level. And what's your reason why you want to eat a plant-based diet? I mean, if you have 100 pounds to lose, you're probably not going to want to be snacking on nuts all day. For a lot of people, when they're going through a sugar addiction, they need to eat fruit. I talked to some clients that hadn't eaten a banana for years because they heard it was high in the glycemic index. They haven't had a potato for years because they thought it was turned to too high in carbs. I see carb phobia. And so carbs are good for you. Whole food, plant-based, unprocessed carbs are what we're talking about. Like you said, it's the crackers, the cookies, the things in the box that have a label that you scan, packaged protein bars, all those things I put in a processed category. So getting off sugar, if eating nuts works for you, wonderful. I think it works for a lot of other people as well. But also there's the fresh fruits too that can also give you that satiability. Eating bananas and apricots and melons and cherries, all the fruits that coming out, and the seasons go on. We get a variety all year round about the different kinds of fruits to eat. And fruits are so healthy for you. And I think fruits has a bad name too, unfortunately. My diabetes clients that come to me, for example, are told by their doctors not to eat sugar, that they should be on a high-fat, high-protein diet. And that's destroying their pancreas and their insulin levels, because that fat is what's blocking. The saturated fat from the meats is what's putting up a wall that's not allowing the insulin to get into the cells. And more plant-based doctors are coming out with the research that eating lots of fruit is super healthy for you.
Do you recommend people limit their fruit intake to 3? That was always traditional. Or do you say just eat it?
I say eat lots of fruit. But again, it's the whole combination of how you're eating a plant-based diet. Fruits, there's people that are fruitarians, that's all they live on, and they eat fruit. That's their main meal. That's their main diet. I'm not an advocate for eating a fruitarian diet, but I think it's certainly worth, you can always try. That's the thing within the plant-based world. You can eat more raw, you can eat more fruit, you can eat more starch. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. But I think that working with a coach like myself, a weight loss coach, if it's losing weight, then yeah, we need to come up with a balanced nutrition plan for yourself. and if you're on medication, sometimes that's the reason that you're having the inflammation and not able to lose weight. So it's a whole health recovery by eating a plant-based diet and trying to get off all the medications, because those have side effects. And we got to detox the liver coming off a lot of medications. And I don't know that many women at my age, as you get older, that aren't on some kind of medication. And so you have to ask yourself, that's a Band-Aid. There's definitely something wrong. And so you want to get off your medications and use, like you said, food as your medicine. And it's so possible. And within 30 days, like you said, the body is so forgiving. Just like a plant, when you see a plant that's wilted and hasn't been watered or has been through a storm, you give it a little bit of nourishment and it stands back up and it's on its way and it's growing and it's loving the sunshine and it's smiling. The same with us. I said, our bodies are so forgiving. It's our temple. We're God's given gift to have this. And so we need to treat it right. And eating really healthy food is good medicine.
Absolutely the best medicine on the planet. That and moving your body's energy. It's though no one gave us the handbook for having a human body. So the soul came in, the body grew, no one told us. We were just, allowed to be indoctrinated by the messages. I always say it is a gift to come to a moment in your life where you wake up. It's a real gift, because when you eat badly, it's not your fault. When you eat in a certain way that has harmed your body or brought on a disease, it's not your fault. It's no one taught you. And before you could figure out, you got addicted or you really got stuck in this way of being. And the moment you realize, you know what, I know this is not good. It's not my fault. These were my epigenetics. This was the environment that I was brought up in. This was the indoctrination I saw, and society around me went to McDonald's and had the milkshakes and had the dead bread with the dead meat that we weren't even sure it is meat, but I got so used to it that I didn't know any other way. And now it's all gone wrong, but at least I've woken up. And it's that moment of grace that you just have to go, thank you for letting me see that is not for me, and that there's another way, and there's a way that I can nourish my being from the planet, because this planet is here for us to coexist and nourish each other. And so it's for me, it's a path that one, if you are on it, if you're watching something like this or something similar, and if you are ready to make that change, just the fact that you are thinking about it is a grace.
I love your passion. I love it. I can see it. And your passion is what drives you and motivates the rest of us. I mean, I think you can motivate people and I can motivate people to want to make a lifestyle change, but it's going to take that determination to get over some of those small addictive food habits that we've had over the years. And if you can just stick with it for 30 days, you're going to see this unbelievable change. And what you were saying just a second ago, Sonia, that I want to address is that you said about the movement. And I've been doing yoga probably for 20 to 25 years, and my practice has just improved since I started eating a plant-based diet as well. And another thing is, you never have to worry about your weight. Eating a whole food plant-based diet, and I've never eaten more in my life, is not restrictive. You're able to maintain your goal weight that's right for your body. And you know what that weight is by doing yoga, because you're able to balance, you're able to move freely. There's a fluidity in your body eating a whole food plant-based diet without inflammation, and practicing yoga and lengthening your muscles and stretching. The two of them are just a marriage in heaven.
Soulmate. It's beautiful. So we are about to embark on this 5-day challenge. And our mission is to get everybody excited enough to stick with it just for 5 days. Because in 5 days, although the hope is that they carry on, but in 5 days, it's a very good opportunity to just reboot, give the system a break, and to wring out some of those toxins inside the tissues. And that when we get to the end, everybody feels the clarity, the sparkliness, and they're ready to make the right decision. And I think that it's very hard to make good decisions for your body and for your life and for your well-being when everything feels so sore and tight and intoxicated, when you feel that heaviness, it's like you just attract more heaviness. So there has to be a moment where you say, enough. I feel the heavy, and I'm just going to bypass everything that is wanting to continue down this heavy road, because I know, I believe, I have faith that at the end of the 5 days, I will feel lighter, brighter, and more able to continue making these kind of good decisions for my well-being. So, I mean, ultimately, it's not easy. And that's what people need to know. You know, when you're going to change your life, it's like you got to turn the ship. It's not easy, right? But you have to take that moment.
Exactly.
And inner strength and power, and say, right, the warrior has to wake up, because now I have to do something that's not easy. I have to stick to this because I commit sticking to it. And I'm really going to make this change. I'm going to take this grocery list. Sheri has very kindly shared with us her grocery list that you can all go out and prepare with, and a meal plan. So it's a 7-day meal plan, and which is great because it's going to give people more options, right? The 7-day meal plan, which you can continue using as well. And so as you challenge every day, you're going to get the yoga, you're going to get the meal plan, you're going to have stocked your fridge and decided what you're going to eat. You're definitely not going to have any sugar in your house. But let's talk about what's acceptable in cans. Spoke about. First of all, can we have chickpeas in cans?
Absolutely. I'm all in favor of canned beans. Just make sure they're low sodium, organic, and PBA free.
How do we choose, Sheri? So we go into a store and we see all these cans. You know, just wanted to give everybody a visual. I've got some black beans as well. Don't know if you can see that. So how do we choose? So we go into the store and we see, you know, some chickpeas. How do we know that this is an okay can of chickpeas to grab? Is there something we should look for?
Low sodium, PABA, PBA free means that lining inside the can isn't toxic, and organic. Those are the healthiest choices. You know, right now with what we're going through, I know grocery stores don't always have as many options, so you have to just do the best that you can do. So canned beans are simple and easy, and any kind of bean, everybody has a choice, like you were saying about your nuts. It doesn't matter which bean you eat, it's all the same pretty much. It's just the variety so that you don't get bored. You can switch from chickpea to black bean, and you can do, you know, different recipes call for different beans. But in my 7-day menu plan, if I have pinto beans or if I have black beans on my menu plan and you want it's all the same. A half cup of beans, doesn't matter what kind of beans, as long as it's a legume that is what you prefer, that you are going to enjoy eating.
I love it. The other thing is, I wanted to ask you about nuts. Obviously, we've got pecans, pistachios, but I wanted to ask about when you get these kind of whole nuts. I love salted nuts. Can you talk a little bit about that? I love to salt them. Is
Absolutely.
that, in your opinion, okay to put them in an oven, roast them, and salt them?
First of all, let me back up and just say something. For the 5 days, I'm going to ask you to give up alcohol, because eating a whole food plant-based diet is also about, you know, reducing the inflammation, and alcohol can cause the inflammation. So again, for 5 days, I'm asking everybody to try to give up the alcohol, because that's the only way you're going to feel the real effects. We agree, right?
Totally agree.
Awesome. Okay, good. Just wanted to clarify that. Nuts, of course, it depends on if you have high blood pressure. Most clients who have high blood pressure already have been told by their doctors not to eat added salt. So you're not going to want to salt and roast your nuts. However, raw nuts, again, are the healthiest because they're the less processed. Anything that's raw and from the earth that hasn't been processed, and that's why you're right. Your walnuts should be fresh and raw. All your seeds and nuts should be raw. And if you want to roast them because you like that texture or taste, that's up to you. But raw nuts have more nutrition.
Because I find sometimes raw almonds are really hard on my stomach and digestion. Do you find that personally, or?
No, but I know that other people do. And that's why you just have to find the nut that works for you. Or, you know, you don't have to have nuts. A lot of people can have avocado, flaxseed, seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds. There's a lot of different varieties of seeds and nuts that you can find that works for your body. And so I wouldn't be too concerned. There's such a variety.
Okay, good. So, okay, so for everybody to know, you can have the things that you can have in packets and cans are like your beans and your chickpeas and obviously your nuts. So this isn't the same as a packet of cereal, right? So we need
Right.
to have discernment. We need to know that, you know, it's not like because there's an apple chip in a bag and it's apples that it might be okay. It's probably not okay. It might say organic and vegan, but it's probably heavily oiled. Even if they say it's natural, it's got preservatives for that apple to be cut up and sit in the bag. So you know it's not okay. However, nuts are okay, right? These are going to be okay. Am I right? Do you agree on that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. The key is to read the back of the label, and if there's more than 5 ingredients, you probably don't want to eat it.
Okay, that's a really good tip.
So yeah, because like your oats, you want to get your oats, and I recommend steel cut oats just because, again, they're the least processed. They're cut with the steel, so they're a little bit more solid. But when you read the back of your label, you're going to see oats. You're going to see oats in the rolled oats. And when you see an oatmeal in a box that has all these words that you can't pronounce that are processed additives to keep them on the shelf, you don't want to get those kinds of oatmeal. You want to get the most raw, fresh, whole oat. And again, those come in a package, but most of the things you're going to be shopping for are going to be in your produce department and the whole food section where you see the apples, the lettuces, all of that's where you're going to spend. And then you go down the road if you need to get dried goods like your beans or your canned goods or your beans or your legumes. And on the menu plan, on the shopping list, it's all laid out for you. And everything on the shopping list is super healthy.
I love it. I love it. So when people say dark chocolate, so 80% dark chocolate, I just posted yesterday that dark chocolate is not a health food. So I read the article. It was an amazing one. You can go to my Twitter account. That's everything that I love reading. But what do you say about dark chocolate? Do you recommend
chocolate? I think, again, it depends on where you're coming from. If you're going through the transition and you need that extra little, you know, crutch to help you cross over the bridge, which is quite all right. That chocolate that you showed me was 80%. 80% and above, you're not going to have that milky, yummy flavor that's going to want to make you eat the whole bar when you want to eat a milk chocolate. Or, you know, if it's pure organic dark chocolate, you know, having a square, if that's what your body wants and craves, there's a lot of research that says it's loaded with antioxidants. So, you know, I'm okay with that. That's not the real problem. That if you just have one square, that's going to be totally fine if that's what you enjoy. Right?
Then another couple of things that I wanted to ask about are, have you seen these?
Yes, I think those are wonderful for a couple of reasons. Iodine, that has iodine in it, which is so important for women. So yeah, we don't get seaweed that often, and they may be a little bit high in sodium. So if you have an issue with that, maybe look for the low sodium ones. I'm not sure what the sodium content is that. I haven't seen those in a while, but I think those are fun to eat. That's a good, healthy snack.
That's why I wanted to suggest,
especially for your children.
My daughter lives on these.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say that I on these because they are, well, my daughter loves them and they are healthy, and it's a really good snack. Like if you're craving a packet of crisps, if you normally eat crisps, this might be a nice substitute. You know, just go and get a little packet of seaweed. And I mean, they don't look like they have anything in them. So it looks like a good option.
Yes.
For everybody. I want to ask about this. Now, I don't know what I'm expecting you to say on this, but what do you say if like somebody's going to do like a lovely vegetable soup and they pre-buy these vegetable cooking stocks? What do you say to that?
I say yes.
Okay.
That's what I actually recommend that that's what you use instead of oil to saute your vegetables. Or if you want to make a stir fry, instead of using oil, use a little bit of vegetable stock. It keeps it sautes the same as if it was oil, and it gives it that little extra.
Actually, it's funny that you say that. I never ever use oil. Like if you're going to do, if I'm going to do vegetables or whatever, I always use this. And I was hoping you were going to say it was okay, because this is something that I really love doing. I love putting all my broccoli and my vegetables, and sometimes I'll cook them. I'll kind of just steam them and then pop them in this, and maybe add a few more. Really into cumin at the moment. I want everything to taste like cumin. So that's a really good option for people, because people don't really know that they can saute vegetables in a little bit of, stock, vegetable stock. I mean, it's really an easy way to
Absolutely.
to not have all that oil.
Exactly.
What else was I going to ask? So, for people who are not used to this whole way of living, do you eat personally? I'm just going to ask your personal. Do you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or do you sort of graze throughout the day?
That's a good question. I eat 3 meals a day, or 2 meals a day, I would say, or 2.5 meals a day. I eat breakfast, and I eat lunch is my largest meal. I eat a really large lunch, and sometimes dinner I either skip, or I have a really light, like fruit smoothie, something that is easy to digest, and I sleep better on an emptier, on a less full stomach. And I also love the benefits of intermittent fasting, which is another topic we could talk about in another time, but extending out, not having a meal, just there's been so much proof in fasting and intermittent fasting. So I'm always practicing a little bit of that now too. That's something new that I really enjoy doing. But everybody's different. Some people are grazers like yourself, and some people are meal planners. For weight loss, I really work with my clients to go 4 hours in between meals, because it's that not eating that you tap into your stored sugar, which is then stored into glycogen, which then is what you're tapping into, your own body fat. And when you're starting to use your own body fat, that's what helps you to get rid of the body fat. So, for weight loss, I always recommend that you go 4 or 5 hours between meals, or as long as possible, or skipping a meal. Again, it depends on what your goals are. There's so many different goals for why you want to go plant-based.
Yeah.
And so everybody's different, but on my program, usually we do meals, and we go 4 hours in between meals, so that you're able, sometimes when you're snacking often throughout the day, you're not snacking on the healthiest foods. Of course, you don't want to be snacking on the seafood and nuts all day and not getting your beans and some of your other necessities of your macros in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolute sense. So I previously shared a grocery list that included no potatoes, no rice. I think you also had rice on it. No, none of those. And now I think everybody's going to be thrilled to see that that is an okay thing to have. They can have the oats and the rice, because I don't eat those things. So, but I sometimes feel a little bit like, that's just the way I roll. But it's not okay for everybody. They need that soaked oats, right? They need that rice or those sweet potatoes.
That's why, Sonia, you're able to snack on nuts all day. You're not eating the whole grains. So that's the interesting thing that you learn about what works for your body. You're getting your nutrients, you're getting your fat, your vitamin, your micro through your nuts. And so, yeah, if you ate all those nuts and ate the potatoes and ate the rice, you would probably be a little bit heavier. Now, so when you're including the whole grains, that's why you have to cut back on the fat, but you're getting a whole balanced meal. And I have to just address this really, simply and as quickly as possible, is that it's the resistance starch that's in the potatoes and the rice and the oats that keeps you full. Those kinds of whole grains and starchy vegetables have the resistance starch. And the whole key to this is to stay full, so that you can go 4 hours in between your meals, so that you're able to work out and think clearly and have the energy, and not always being hungry and discomfort and not feeling this calm feeling that you eat when you eat a balanced whole food plant-based diet. So it's a give or take. If you're eating more fat, like you're eating more fat and eating more nuts, then you're probably not going to eat those foods that weren't on your grocery list. Mine is a variety, and then I mix plates, 3 balanced plates, with a little bit of fat, a little bit of starchy vegetables and whole grains and beans at each meal, and fruit. Don't let me forget about the fruit. That's the bookends to the meals. A lot of people, it's amazing how many people come up to me and say, oh my gosh, I can eat all this fruit. Well, instead of having a banana for years, they were still eating a cookie or a piece of cake, but they were thinking, no, I won't have any fruit. The fruit is really important. It's really key to this whole plan.
Yes. I love it. And I know that a lot of people are going to love it.
I believe in batch cooking, where I make a big pot of oats, a big pot of brown rice, a big pot of potatoes, and they're all set and ready to go. So I can just throw it together and, like you said, be creative, but that I can go on with my day. I'm not in the kitchen, which is a misunderstanding. I think, oh, plant-based diet, I'm going to be in there preparing and chopping and cooking. I'm never going to have time for that. I just slap on my meat and have my vegetables or put it on the barbecue and I'm set to go. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's a misconception. When you learn and you make the habit, it gets to be easy. You know what? It's just like when I started my yoga practice. Think about when you first started your yoga practice out there to all those yogis. I was like, oh my gosh, will I ever be as good as that? I don't think I'll be able to do it. And each day I got better and better and better. And before you know it, I consider myself, wow, I can do these poses, because I just kept practicing and the determination, because I felt good doing it. It's the same way on a plant-based diet. Never give up. You're going to get better and better and better. You're going to learn more. And I'm not looking for perfection. It's a process. So over time, because of the way you're feeling, you're going to want to keep trying harder and harder to reach this kind of good feeling. Just like in yoga, it makes you feel so good.
It makes you feel so good. Yoga for me is the life. It's, if you're going to live yoga, then you need to really truly live it. You need to look at, how you're nourishing your body and how you're taking your body to bed and how it's sleeping. And you have to look at your whole being as, your own child. You have to be your mother and your father, and you have to kind of reparent yourself, reteach yourself. You know what? If you're going to live your best life, you're probably going to need 8 hours sleep. So let's try and get to bed and turn that phone off. And if you're going to live your best life, you're going to need to eat, nourish yourself, and you need to stop the ice cream and the McDonald's because it's not working. If you want to live your best life, you're going to have to get on your yoga mat, even if it's a minimum of 30 minutes a day. You have to do it. And, all those things, naturally, eventually, after you do it for some time, it's like we don't think, can't brush my teeth today, that's going to take me an extra 5 minutes. We don't think like that. Eventually, eating organically is just going to be so organic. Getting on your mat every day is just going to feel like a need that you cannot live without. These things
exactly.
And eventually you don't even think about them. I don't think about it. I bet you don't think about the fact that, oh, today I have to chop my salad. You just like, today I'm chopping salad and it's amazing. I'm going to have the juiciest, lemon drenched, yummiest salad. And then I'm going to have cinnamon apples. And then I'm going to, your brain thinks differently. These things are just part of your existence, and your existence becomes a whole different story, right? You suddenly, you think differently.
Absolutely.
You have different energy. You're a different human being. So I think it's just a no-brainer. And the only thing is inspiration and grace.
I love that, what you just said. It's so true. I mean, yoga is not just on the mat. Yoga is the way you conduct your life and how you walk through your life, and taking your breath every day that is given to us. That's the gift. That's the inspiration, is our breath. And you're so right. And I think also I just have to throw into, like you said, I loved how you said, you don't say, oh, I have to brush my teeth. You just built the habit in of brushing your teeth or washing your hair. That's how I feel about meditation too. It's like 15 minutes daily of meditation. And it's just like brushing my teeth now. And again, it's all about the energy. It's being in the consciousness of being here now, and just the food, the yoga, the meditation all goes together. And so you're right. The yoga, the food, the whole food, plant-based meditation, It's a lifestyle. It's a healthy lifestyle. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get off the marijuana, the alcohol, to live consciously. You have to give up those kinds of crutches and really, really feel life being consciousness. And I'm such a motivator, and I can't emphasize it enough how people think alcohol is okay. Sure, every once in a while, but having a glass or 2 glasses every night, it's not going to do you any good. And I'm just saying that because I see a lot of women that drink a lot of wine, and that makes them eat cheese and bread, and it just goes down that road of path of least resistance.
Last night I was just saying to my husband, you know what, my love? I said, you can think you're all sophisticated, sitting there with a glass of red wine, some runny cheese, and a few crackers, but you're actually completely poisoning yourself. And let's just say you had a twin, and the one twin ate plant-based, did the yoga, breathed deeply, enjoyed the joys of life, and the other sister enjoyed all the joys of life, only she drank the wine, she ate the cheese, she ate the meat, she didn't do the yoga because she didn't know about it. I just want to know which twin is going to arrive in the golden years of their lives feeling like they can still ski and climb mountains, because ultimately what are we doing? We're looking for vitality right to the end, right? So we want to feel amazing right until the last. We don't want to get to those last years of our lives and feel like, now I've got all the wisdom, but I can't enjoy it because my body doesn't work anymore, right? We don't want to get there with that sentiment. And we want to teach our kids. We want to show them by example. No, mommy doesn't drink fizzy drinks because it's poisonous. No. You know, we want to lead by example so that we can educate the next generation and we can pull them out of the marketing indoctrination, which is what we need to do, right?
Exactly. And it'll just make their lives that much easier. I mean, think about it. What do we do with our children when they reach 1 year of age? We give them a big birthday cake loaded with sugar. And all that year, they didn't really have sugar. They probably never even knew what sugar. But once you get that birthday cake and they put it in their mouth, and then the next day you're like, here, have your vegetables. They don't want to eat them.
They don't want to eat it. They don't want to eat it because some signal went to the brain and it was like baby heroin.
Exactly.
I know. Well, I'm so grateful. Sheri, thank you so much. Now, you're going to obviously be doing the challenge with us, but for those who are really interested in changing their lives, really just having somebody to work with, having that accountability, having somebody to hold their hand as they move through the transition, how can people find you?
There's several ways. I am on Facebook, of course. I'm on Instagram, but I think my website is probably the best place because there's a button there that you can push and receive a complimentary call. So you can push that button. It's no charge just to talk to me. It's a free health discovery call to see if this is really for you and if I can be of service. So go to SheriGoodmanGraham.com. I'm sure it's on the menu plan. Is it on the menu plan? I think it's there. They can reach you and you can guide them to me. I'm sure we'll connect. And I think a little bit of coaching with transition, and also if you've struggled losing weight before, sometimes you need that accountability just to have someone there for you week after week, just to guide you and support you depending on how much you have to lose. That's my passion as a weight loss coach. I really love helping women lose weight so that they can be at their potential and feel the best that they can feel. And like you said, live a long life. And the new word that I use, Sonia, instead of just longevity, is health span. I mean, we're prolonging life now with medications and with support systems. We're keeping people a lot longer, but unhealthy long life. We want a long, healthy life. So it's how much do we want to increase our health? Help you.
We're dying longer, basically. People are being kept alive, but they're not enjoying the fullness of life. In fact, a lot of people are being kept alive in pain. I have a lot of people who talk to me about chronic pain, waking up and feeling the pain in their body. And you know, as they're telling me, I know it's because of what they're eating and how they move in their bodies every day. I know it. So when somebody says, you know what, I'm achy all day, you know, my body's sore, and the first thing you have to say is, let's just take a look at your movement every day and what you're eating. It's the first thing. But a doctor will say, well, what meds are you on? And let's just add some to that whole cocktail. And that has got to stop.
Yes, I agree. It's a Band-Aid. It's not going to, it's putting a Band-Aid on a problem. But I love what you just said too. And I just wanted to also add, it's also what you're thinking as well as what you're eating and as well as how you're sitting and being active. The mind is so powerful. And so again, that's what meditation brings into this, the power of thinking positive and switching the mindset and believing that you can live a long life if you want. And it can be a healthy, long life. And you can stop the aging process today, no matter what age we're at here. It doesn't have to be a number. By just changing the way you think, the way you move, and the way you eat, you can stop the aging process. I see it happening all the time.
You really can. And that's why on this challenge, I'm giving everybody an affirmation audio to listen to every night before they go to bed. And
beautiful.
Incredible thing, because what they do is, especially before you go to bed at night, they basically, you've got 8 hours just to sit and percolate and nourish your deep subconscious soil. And that's where we want the seeds of, I am a powerful spiritual being. I can eat healthy. I choose to nourish my body with these healing foods. It's like reprogramming the bugs in the hard drive, getting them out. And when you understand that your body is this trilogy, it's got to be, how do you feel physically? What are you thinking? It comes together, right? So, and your heart is a really big part of it. And I loved when I discovered that the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain does to the heart. So isn't that interesting? So when we used to think that the brain, controlled the heart, no. So what does that tell us? That our emotions are almost a pulse that comes first and then tells the brain, and then the brain tells the body, we're feeling in love. Let's release that good stuff and get high on that. And then you're kind of floating around, or the pulse comes and we've just had, bad news, and the brain gets told, the body reacts. It's this beautiful relay, but it comes from the heart.
I agree. It's the emotion. Absolutely.
Yes. And the second brain, as we know, is the stomach. So the stomach, everything happens in the gut. So we have to take care of all of these things. And it's amazing, but you have to want it. You have to be ready for it. You have to say, you know what? The need for change is bulldozing a path through my mind, and I want to take hold of this and just change my life, right?
Yeah, it's like, I think it was Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And to reach that point, you have to make some kind of change. And it's just can be a small baby step, like doing this 5-day challenge could be the key that will unlock the insanity so that you're able to really continue on this lifestyle path.
I love it. I think that's a perfect place to end. So thank you so much, Sheri, for joining us. Thank you for all your wisdom and for your grocery list and for the 7-day menu. And I am looking forward to connecting with you more and really just helping more people, because that's the mission, right? So in the future, I hope that we go through this again. I would love to just say to everybody that, if they have any questions over these days, I'm sure you'll be around for them to shoot you over a question like, can I have cannelloni beans in a can, right? Sheri, I'm so grateful.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sonia. It was my pleasure. I had so much fun, and I wish everybody the best of luck, and namaste. And we'll keep in touch, definitely.
Namaste, my love. We see you soon.
Bye.